Hello, welcome to News Central Studios, reaching you live from our studio in Lagos, Nigeria. I am Benga Aborowa, and this is NC Continental Prime. These are the top stories at this hour. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari commissions the Lagos-IBADAN dual-lane standard gauge rail line. Kenya launches multidisciplinary center to support the control, elimination and eradication of infectious diseases. And confirmed COVID-19 cases in Africa surpass 4.96 million. We'll bring you all the details shortly. We begin the news at this hour in West Africa. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has commissioned the Lagos-IBADAN dual-lane standard gauge rail line. The rail corridor, which spans about 156 kilometers, crisscrossing 10 rail terminals in the states of Lagos, Ogun and Oyo, all in Nigeria's southwest region, is the first of its kind in West Africa. President Buhari, while speaking at the commissioning ceremony, which also had in attendance senior government officials, including Nigeria's Minister of Transportation, Information, Health, and also the governors of Lagos, Ogun, Ekiti, and Oyo State, says the new rail line will transform commerce and transportation in the region. The rail line is expected to transport almost 8 million persons every year.
Indeed, a great and memorable event for all of us here, especially given the amount of resources, time and energy expended to put this long-coming vital infrastructure in place. Perhaps what many may not know is that this infrastructure development project had faced so many challenges in the course of its execution and delivery. And without the full support and steadfast encouragement of Mr. President, this event would not have taken place today.
This signals yet another milestone in the drive of this administration to revitalize the railway system, establish it as a choice mode of transportation for both passengers and freight, and position it as a transportation backbone that can transform industrial and economic activity in the country. This vital line establishes an end-to-end logistics supply chain in railway transport within its short corridor, Lagos-IBADAN, as goods to the hinterland will now be transported by rail directly from the Apapa Port, quayside, straight to the inland container depot located in Ibadan, from where it can be distributed to other parts of the country.
Nigeria will on Saturday, June the 12th, mark the New Democracy Day for the third time. While Nigerians now recognize the day and the man behind the day, Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola, major politicians worry about the state of underdevelopment in the country. News Central's Mary Chinda spoke with former presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress, Professor Pat Utomi, and reports.
Nigeria's days away from its big day, the Democracy Day, and the burning issues the nation has been mad in, such as widespread insecurity, a skewed electoral system, declining economic growth, unemployment, uneven food distribution, and poor governance, have been more on the lips of stakeholders who say these mar the essence of the June 12, 1993 struggle which the late Chief Moshood Abiola stood for. Renowned Nigerian professor of political economy, Professor Patutomi, has proposed community policing as a long-term solution to insecurity in the nation.
Security is fundamentally a local problem. Why is it a local problem? Because the people in the community tend to know who the crooks are in their community. Security is local. We even discuss it by talking about community policing. But because of politics, we have not consciously engaged the truth about security as a local thing.
Only recently, data from the Debt Management Office show that Nigeria's debt profile witnessed an over 20% increase between 2019 and 2020. That is from 27 trillion naira to about 32 trillion naira in debt. The professor of political economy points out ways the government can stop more borrowing.
Productive asset base so that you can derive a dividend that will enable you prosper.
With the nation's next general elections only about 20 months away, the statesman recommends that the electoral process must be made credible.
Well, I think that there are some fundamental issues that need to be taken care of before those elections. If we don't take care of electoral process reform to ensure that people's votes really count, we don't bring in electronic voting methods and such other things. If we don't begin to deal with the fundamental structure of a federation, providing more local autonomy, the principle of subsidiarity, then you're going to end up just making things worse than they are today.
June 12 became recognized as Democracy Day in the West African country of Nigeria only in 2019, after the current president, Muhammadu Buhari, signed into law a bill to officially recognize late Chief Moshood Abiola as the rightful winner of the 1993 elections.
MKO, action!
A recognition that has been denied the Abiolas following the annulment of the election by the military government of General Ibrahim Babangida. Mary Chinda for News Central.
The police in Oyo State, southwest Nigeria, have confirmed the death of 11 people in an attack on a Gangan community in a Barapa area on Sunday. The police say several property were also destroyed during the attack. In the meantime, the police say more personnel have been deployed to the area to prevent a further breakdown of law and order. Earlier, I spoke with News Central's Bernard Akede, who visited the area to feel the pulse of the indigents.
On the 5th of June, at about 11 p.m., while they were sleeping, assailants came into the community, and they believed that these assailants were Fulani herdsmen. They came into the community and then they just set the community on fire. Where I'm standing now is the mission house of Methodist Church. From what I can see, there are gunshot holes on the wall of the mission house, gunshot holes just above the window of the mission house, shattered windows of the mission house, and then I'm standing in front of a burnt vehicle which belongs to this mission. The generator house, where the generator for the mission was completely burnt. The machines, they have been destroyed and burnt. There's a row of 7 shops behind me here also that have been burnt, and then to my left, another row of 7 shops also burnt. Now, it's sad that our connection is poor because some government officials have just driven by us. Just across the road is a fuel station. I called Adola Golden Heritage Limited Fuel Station. That fuel station was burned. The assailants actually got a motorcycle, took it to the fuel station, used that motorcycle to set the fuel station on fire, and then they destroyed the building there. Sadly, we hear that 3 persons were also killed at the fuel station. To corroborate that story, we could see blood stains on the wall and on the floor. Presently now, we will go close to some of the government officials who are here. They're just living here in the compound, assessing the extent of damage on this street where we are right now. It's really sad. We also spoke to the community head who evacuated his palace because his palace was also burnt and destroyed. Who explained to us that the community has been living in peace with these so-called Fulani farmers. But the issue that they've been having with them is the fact that their animals, their cattle and goats, usually encroach into the farm and graze on their crops.
We head to Central Africa following a series of clashes in the Democratic Republic of Congo that left 19 people dead. The United Nations has called for more security in the provinces. A spokesman of the United Nations peacekeeping mission Matthias Gilman, called for more help to police the area. Gilman, while noting that the area has been at risk due to its remote location, urged the Congolese army and police to send a reinforced presence of their troops to help restore peace. According to Doctors Without Borders, 10 civilians were killed when a hospital was destroyed in the eastern village of Boga. Several other bodies were found in the North Kivu and Ituri provinces. To East Africa now, where Kenya has launched a multidisciplinary center to support the control, elimination and eradication of infectious diseases in the East and Central Africa regions. The Center for Epidemiological Modeling and Analysis aims at enhancing data-driven decision-making. During the center's launch in Nairobi, the Kenyan capital, Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Education, George Magoha, urged researchers to employ a multidisciplinary approach in tackling the COVID-19 pandemic using relevant data to make effective decisions. Patrick Amoth, Acting Director General of Health, cited the need for accurate and focused health data to inform policy interventions, adding that the government acknowledges the value of science in managing the pandemic and will stick with science until the pandemic is overcome. And Southern Africa's Zimbabwean High Court has dismissed a contempt of court case brought against Chief Justice Luke Malaba. Malaba is at the center of a legal dispute following last month's court ruling that the president's decision to extend his retirement age from 70 to 75 years was illegal. The ruling effectively terminated the 70-year-old Malaba's term. He returned to work after the Justice Minister and Attorney General appealed the ruling, prompting a human rights lawyer to sue him for contempt, saying the 70-year-old should be jailed for 6 months. In May, Parliament voted to amend the Constitution to allow Supreme and Constitutional Court judges the option of extending their terms to 75 years of age. Now, a group of Namibian Herero and Nama tribes have petitioned the United Nations to intervene over what they called an unfair and botched deal struck by the German and Namibian governments on the genocide between 1904 and 1908. The petition is spearheaded by politician Kezanabo, along with other members of the affected group. Speaking to the media, Kezanabo said the current agreement, which seeks to compensate Namibia with $1.3 billion and a public apology, is a blatant disregard of the human rights of the Namibian people and undermines the lives of the people who were killed. According to him, the deal shows the patronizing nature of the German government in dealing with the issue of genocide. He said they're calling for the United Nations to order the German government to find an agreeable solution. The first ever Mauritian nanosatellite Mersat-1 has docked at the International Space Station aboard a SpaceX Cargo Dragon rocket. The Ministry of Information Technology, Communications and Innovation of the Republic of Mauritius made the announcement, noting that the nanosatellite will be sent into low Earth orbit from the space station by the 22nd of June. The Mauritius Research and Innovation Council has set up a ground station at its premises in Ebene to receive data from Mersat-1. The data will be used for various purposes, including maritime surveillance of Mauritius's vast exclusive economic zone, climate change adaptation, weather forecasting, and road traffic management. This is NC Continental Prime. Coming up on the news, Africa COVID-19 cases surpass 4.96 million. We'll bring you details of this and more when we return. Join us again. Welcome back. The Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC, says the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Africa surpassed 4.96 million on Thursday. The Africa CDC says the death toll from the pandemic stood at 133,543, while over 4.47 million patients across the continent have recovered from the disease. South Africa, Morocco, Tunisia, Ethiopia and Egypt are the countries with the most cases in the continent. In terms of the caseload, Southern Africa is the most affected region, followed by northern and the eastern parts of the continent. According to the Africa CDC, Central Africa is the least affected region in the continent. Now, in East Africa, Uganda on Thursday allocated $160 million in the 2021-2022 financial year budget for the procurement of COVID-19 vaccines. Amos Lugolobi, designate Minister of State for Finance in charge of planning, made this known while presenting the country's budget estimate for the 2021-2022 financial year. Lugolobi says the vaccines will be used to vaccinate 6 million people to contain the COVID-19 pandemic in the country. The 2021-2022 financial year is slated to start on the 1st of July. The minister adds that the East African country's immediate health need is ensuring the containment of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, staying in the region, Angolans have begun observing a new period of restriction to help prevent and further combat COVID-19. According to a release by the government, the new measures will last for 1 month. Luanda-based public and private services will keep their workforce at 50%, except for the sectors of education, health, defense and police. Restrictions also include the closure of restaurants and other facilities in the capital, Luanda, on weekends. Now, in Southern Africa, Zambia recorded 2,146 new COVID-19 cases in the last 24 hours as the third wave takes its toll on the country. The health ministry says isolation facilities, especially in highly densely populated areas, are receiving patients at an unprecedented rate in the last 24 hours. The new cases were picked up from 14,033 tests done during this period. They bring the total cases to over 105,000. 8 people have also died, bringing the death toll to 1,332. Over 800 patients were discharged during the period, bringing the total number of recoveries to more than 94,000. The Lesotho Flying Doctors Services are flying to deliver badly needed vaccines to indigents. It is a struggle to vaccinate those in Africa's remotest parts. With supply limited, remote settlements and difficult terrain, the job of delivering vaccines has fallen to doctors traveling by light aircraft. The Lesotho Flying Doctors Services have been delivering jabs to health workers in remote areas. The Flying Doctors Services campaign comes as some leaders meet at the G7 summit, and vaccine donations expected to be high on the agenda. United States President Joe Biden says he will announce a vaccine plan for the world during the summit, while more than 2 billion vaccines have been administered across the world. On the African continent, just 2% of the population has been vaccinated. You're watching NC Continental Prime. Still ahead on the news, United States and British leaders discuss trade problems in Northern Ireland. We'll bring you more of this when we return. Now, world-wrapped British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says there is complete harmony on the need to solve trade problems in Northern Ireland. Following his first face-to-face meeting with United States President Joe Biden, the two leaders met in Cornwall on the eve of the G7 summit. Johnson says the United States, United Kingdom and European Union all wanted to protect the Good Friday Agreement. Earlier, Biden warned that the UK-EU dispute over border controls should not imperil the peace process. During their meeting, the two men established a task force to re-establish travel across the Atlantic after the US banned most British people from entering at the start of the pandemic. Pope Francis has rejected a German cardinal's offer to resign over the mishandling of the Catholic Church's sexual abuse crisis. Earlier this month, Cardinal Reinhard Marx said he should share responsibility for the catastrophe of abuse by Catholic priests. Cardinal Marx is Archbishop of Munich and one of the Church's most influential liberal figures. he's not under investigation himself, either for abuse or for covering it up. Pope Francis says he understands the priest's motivation but rejected the resignation offer. An investigation is underway in the Archdiocese of Cologne after a report in March found that more than 300 abuse victims and cases from 1975 to 2018. The number of children in child labor has risen to 160 million worldwide, an increase of 8.4 million children in the last 4 years, with millions more at risk due to the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. This is according to a new report by the International Labour Organization and UNICEF. The report warns that progress to end child labor has stalled for the first time in 20 years, reversing the previous downward trend that saw child labor fall by 94 million between 2000 and 2016.
We are losing ground in the fight to end child labor. Even before the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw the first increase in 2 decades. 8.4 million more children engaged in child labor since 2016. And now, under COVID-19, an additional 9 million children are at risk of being pushed into child labor by the end of next year. They are affected by school closures, lockdowns, lost parental jobs and income, a lack of social safety nets. Families are desperate and they're turning to child labor as a last resort. We must not accept this. We urge countries to expand income support measures like child benefits to get children back into school where they belong, and to invest in programs that prevent and protect them from being exploited. It's time to get back on track.
On today's Jamie Yangu, we'll be taking you to a trip to the National War Museum in Nigeria.
Located in Umuahia, Abia State, in the southeast region of Nigeria, the National War Museum holds the relics of the Nigerian Biafran War, also known as Nigerian Civil War. It was established in 1985.
This museum is a historic museum. When people come here, after guiding them, telling them what actually happened during the Civil War, they are being touched, and they feel like people should not talk about having another war in this country again. What the message this museum carries is peace, that we should settle our differences with dialogue.
The Nigerian Civil War was a political conflict caused by an attempt at secession of the southeastern provinces of Nigeria as the self-acclaimed Republic of Biafra. The war, which started on July 6, 1967, came to an end on January 15, 1970. While the war lasted, various sophisticated weapons were used. Some of these deadly weapons were fabricated locally.
The idea of having this type of museum, war museum, was mooted by T.Y. Danjuma in the year 1977. After his official visit to Yugoslavia, Soviet Union, when he came back to Nigeria, having visited a war museum over there, he presented the idea of having a war museum to the Army Ruling Council. It was during the regime of Buhari as a military head of state.
The relics of this unsavory war are preserved and maintained by the National Commission for Museums and Monuments. It has the highest collection of the Nigerian Civil War weapons that are no longer in use.
We have war weapons, traditional war weapons used by forefathers during in the olden days, and also we have the war weapons used during the Civil War in Nigeria. We also have a special library where researchers make use of. We also have galleries, 3 different galleries that have different objects that people can come and see. The traditional warfare gallery, there we have traditional weapons. The armed forces gallery, there we have pictures of the army, the navy, and the air force, and their uniforms, their ranks, and their shoes. The Civil War gallery, that is the VOB, there we have in photographs what happened during the Civil War in Nigeria.
Looking at the different obsolete military weapons in their obsolete state, one wonders how many lives some of these weapons must have terminated. Was the cost worth the loss? Has Nigeria learned from this sad chapter in the nation-building process? Has the huge cost of this war made the nation value the need for peace and dialogue as the best method of conflict resolution?
Give up secession and report for reappointment and redeployment.
The Republic of Biafra hereby ceases to exist.
The experience, many agree, is such that makes the resort to arms and war as a means of conflict resolution a very unattractive option.
Right, business trade between South Africa and Nigeria has hit $2.9 billion last year, with hopes of improved trade with the African Continental Free Trade Area. According to Nigeria's consulate in Johannesburg, Nigeria accounts for 64% of South Africa's trade in West Africa and is one of South Africa's top 3 sources of crude oil. The consulate noted that in 2020, South Africa imported 35 billion rand worth of goods, predominantly crude oil, from Nigeria and exported 6 billion rand to Nigeria. The consulate added that while the economic relationship may be considered as a win-win situation, the balance of the relationship favors South Africa. Hence, the need to consolidate the ties and nip in the bud any irritant to the partnership. Tolulope Adeleru Balogun joins us now for more business news.
Welcome. This is Business on NC Continental Prime. I'm Tolulope Adeleru Balogun. Business activity in Uganda declined slightly in May, and analysts believe it is a reaction to built-up anxiety brought about by a surge in COVID-19 cases. However, it remained way above average, with a notable increase in new orders, output, and employment. The Stanbic Bank Purchasing Managers Index, which measures monthly business activity, indicates that the index slightly declined by 1.3 points to 56.5 in May, down from April's reading of 57.8 points. However, the index continued to be above the 50-point mark, indicating a consistent recovery since January. Ghana's inflation rate dropped to a record low in May. It fell below the middle of the central bank's target range. Consumer inflation slowed to 7.5% from 8.5% in April, which is the lowest since the start of 2013, according to the government statistician Samuel Anim. The slowdown has brought inflation below the midpoint of the official target band of between 6 to 10% earlier than the central bank had projected. The inflation rate in the West African economy was above 11% in May, June, and July last year at the peak of the pandemic and movement restrictions, which created a high base for comparing year-on-year price moves. That and a relatively stable exchange rate added to the drop in the headline number last month. Food price growth, which helped to keep inflation above 10% for most of last year, slowed to 5.4% from 6.5% in April. Non-food inflation was 9.2%. Niger, Togo, Benin, and Burkina Faso are collaborating to buy the unutilized power produced in Nigeria. The chairman of the executive board of the West African Power Pool, Sule Abdulaziz, who is also the acting managing director of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, said that the four countries were collaborating to make the power purchase from Nigeria through the North Core Power Transmission Line, which is currently being built. He said Nigeria is expecting new participants in the energy export sector for the 875-kilometer 330 kV North Core transmission line from Nigeria through Niger, Togo, Benin to Burkina Faso. And staying in Nigeria, Royal Dutch Shell's Nigerian arm is urging the government in Abuja to pass the long-delayed petroleum industry bill into law. This legislation is expected to reform the country's petroleum industry. The Nigerian Senate is also expected to further deliberate on the bill this month. Shell Nigeria Exploration and Production Company Managing Director Bayo Ojulari said that for every delay, investment funds are moving elsewhere. The bill, first presented in Nigeria's parliament in 2008, would streamline how energy assets in Africa's largest oil producer are operated and funded. It would also regulate the oil industry and attract more investment to the sector. And still talking oil, Libya has cut crude production by nearly 20% due to maintenance at its largest oil field and leaks on pipelines linking other desert deposits to the Mediterranean coast. The country's national oil company chairman, Mustafa Sanala, said the OPEC producer began reducing output at fields operated by the Waha Oil Company over the last 2 days because of these leaks. Production has also dropped at its biggest field, Sharara, over the past 2 weeks. Insiders say that the outage totals more than 200,000 barrels a day. Libya holds Africa's largest crude reserves, but it has struggled to pump a fraction of the oil it produces. This is due to fighting between rival factions seeking control of the country's oil fields and ports. And that's it on business right here on NC Continental Prime. There's more news coming your way right after this. I'm Tolulokwe Adeleru Balogun.
News Central Sports anchor Udoka Ujoku joins us for the latest in the world of sports. Udoka, what do you have for us?
Well, there's a whole lot going on across the world of sports, and we have to start off with the cricket story. I mean, when you look at the Euros that will be kicking off tomorrow and other sports activities as we tilt towards the Olympics, we'll get to know that there's a whole lot to enjoy in as much as leagues have come to an end. But kicking off with cricket, Proteas middle order batsman and limited overs captain Temba Bavuma has been ruled out of the first test against the West Indies due to a left hip injury. Now, Captain Dean Elgar said during his pre-match conference that Bavuma would have to go through a late fitness test to determine his availability for the match. Now, Bavuma will stay with the team in the Caribbean as the Proteas medical team remain optimistic that he will be fit in time for the second and final test match, which starts at the same venue on Friday next week. Going over to some grassroots football now, entertainment, celebrities and hospitality business owners are set to kick off the third edition of the annual Lagos Club Cup, which will hold on Sunday the 13th of June and Monday the 14th of June. The football competition aims towards promoting social interaction through grassroots football in the country. Now, this year's edition, tagged Football for Peace, will see hospitality companies in Lagos gather at the landmark Beach Football Arena in Victoria Island for a novelty match against entertainment celebrities in both the male and the female categories.
To the second edition, now to the third edition, people are getting to actually know reasons or understand why they should adopt fitness lifestyle merged with the hospitality duties. You know, these people don't naturally have time to exercise, and that's why we discovered that loophole and we decided to say, okay, we would fill it up. A lot of football teams have emerged from different nightclubs, lounges, restaurants. Even they participate in other competitions that is not ours, which is our joy.
Our aim is to improve health outcomes in both recreational and professional sports persons. You know, we achieve this by offering pre, during, and post-medical services. The pre-medical services includes annual medical checkups, you know, other checks to ensure that players are fit to play. And during the game also we have fever certified medics on sports always with advanced life support medical equipment to make sure that whatever injury occurs on the spot, they can handle it before moving into the hospital. And of course, we have an ambulance on standby also, you know, and post, you know, so when someone develops an injury, you know, want to make sure that the person is receiving the appropriate interventions post the match, you know, to ensure that they heal properly and they can return to the sports.
Moving on from there now, let's go straight to Euro 2020, where Wembley could be half full for the knockout stages of the competition, on the plans being discussed by the Football Association and the UK government. And talks are centering on 40,000 fans being allowed in, regardless of whether the easing of current restrictions is delayed. Now, nothing has been finalized, but plans must be sent to UEFA in the coming days. For the first two group matches, the capacity will be 22,500 fans. Wembley hosts England's three Group D fixtures against Croatia, Scotland and the Czech Republic, as well as two last 16 ties in both semi-finals and the finals. And fans attending England's group games at Wembley will be required to show a proof of vaccination or a negative test before entry. And that's a wrap on Sports Update. A hand over to Benga for the rest of the news.
Thank you very much, Udoka. And for the latest in entertainment news across Africa, Sam Dandy joins me with the latest.
Thank you very much. And now to entertainment news. Starting off on a good note, Nollywood actor Chinedu Ekedeze may be on his way to becoming the first Nigerian actor to get his own NFTs. The actor recently confirmed that his memes from his character Aki will be minted into non-fungible tokens, a digital asset which could be videos, pictures, and in this case, memes. This news comes amid information that he and co-actor Osita Iheme will be returning to our screens for a Play Network Studios production. While thanking fans ahead of their patronage, the award-winning actor with over 20 years' experience in Nollywood shared in the post, "Now you have a chance to own some of the widely popular Aki memes minted as NFTs. Buyers will get a personalized video message from me. Part of the proceeds will go towards various charitable causes across Africa." Now, he wouldn't be the first Nigerian entertainer to make this move. In March, Nigerian rap legend Emeagbaga exclusively revealed to Tech Cabal that his next album, Young Denzel, a study on love, would be released as an NFT. Now, NFTs have proven successful in times past. American band Kings of Leon sold their latest album, When You See Yourself, as an NFT and generated upward of $2 million as reported by billboards. Now to some international news. We've got amazing news that Medea is coming to Netflix. Now, Medea is an elderly African-American character created and portrayed by 51-year-old billionaire, actor, and director Tyler Perry. Tyler revealed the news in a comedic post via Instagram.
Hey, guess what's happening? Okay, I want to take I want to take that. Sorry. Medea. Medea. This is Tyler Perry saying, "This is Medea saying I'm coming back and I'm on Netflix. I can't wait to take it so nice out. Damn it, hey." Medea's coming to Netflix. We need to laugh, man. Too much is going on in the country. We need to laugh. So I was done. But I wasn't. But she's coming back. Medea, I'm with it. I'm here. I am. Medea on Netflix. I can't wait.
The Medea character boasts over 10 movies till date and has consistently entertained its global audience since its inception in 2002. Perry has announced that it will premiere next year, called A Medea Homecoming. While we're super excited, here's one ridiculous funny clip from Medea. That's all entertainment news. I am Sam Dandy.
It's now time to check out what to expect from the weather across the continent. And that's all on the news at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has commissioned the Lagos-IBADAN dual-line standard gauge rail line. Kenya has launched a multidisciplinary center to support the control, elimination and eradication of infectious diseases in the Eastern Central Africa regions. We told you that the African Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Africa has surpassed 4.96 million. Remember to follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV. You can also download our mobile app on App Store and Play Store. You can also watch News Central live on StarTimes channel 274 and Avo TV channel 20p and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Benga Aburua.